And we are live with Mr. Peter Lawson Jones. How are you, Peter?
I am doing very well. Amy, it's good to see you. I wish I were out in Hawaii where you are. It's a little bit cold where I'm at right now.
All right. What's your temperature right now? What's the?
Oh, about 25 to 30 degrees,
All right.
snow on the
I'm
ground.
I'm not gonna brag. We're about like 52, and everybody's complaining about the cold.
I take it. I'll take 52. That works for me.
Well, thank you, sir, for doing this for me. I really, really appreciate it.
No,
And
I appreciate the invitation. I'm the one feeling honored and privileged today.
here's the thing. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. What does a guy, or how shall I say, how can you give up Harvard for a movie career, Peter?
Well, wait a second. I'm still employing the skills that I learned at Harvard College, at Harvard Law School in my career as an actor. As a matter of fact, I've often stated that there's an intersection between being an effective courtroom attorney, an
Uh-huh.
effective politician, and an effective actor. And it involves the art of persuasion in whether you're trying to persuade a jury, a voter, or an audience of your authenticity and your worthiness. It's the same set of fundamental skills. So I'm still employing everything that I learned in college and law school, even in my career as an actor.
So, which is more rewarding among the three then?
Well, let's put it this way. When I when I was 10 years old, if you asked me what I wanted to do in life, I would have said I want to be a professional baseball player. I mean, every young man dreams of being a professional athlete. I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to be a politician. So I was an elected official for 22 years, and that was extremely rewarding because through a piece of legislation or through a phone call or through the stroke of a pen, you could change somebody's life for the better, or you
Hmm.
could, or you could impact your community and the society at large. So I thoroughly enjoyed the years that I spent as an elected official. Uh, I had a lot of fun whenever I was doing trial work. The rest of being a lawyer can be kind of boring, frankly, and uninspiring. But when you're in a courtroom, that is performance. That's performance art. So,
That's true.
but I absolutely enjoy the acting career. I used to act in high school, and I'm sorry, I did not act in high school. I acted in college and law school, and then not again for almost 30 years. So at the age of 55, I started acting again. So that's been about 13 years, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my journey as an actor and to a lesser extent as a playwright.
So, okay, let's remind our audience. You are not just an actor right now. You have plays, and I went to your website, and you are writing a play, and
Yeah, I'm
for in
working on writing
theater.
my third play right now.
And how does performing in theater um, different in performing on a television screen and in a movie? Because let's remind also our audience, you have a list of movies. You were with Tyler Perry. Hello, Alex Cross. And then you just was with Matthew McConaughey in
Yes.
that movie too. So it's not just Chicago Fire. A lot of people have this. I mean, especially the fans, they see them in one episode and they think that's the only thing they do because it's just a guest feature star. Not knowing
hmm
this acts the actors that we have on television have acted not just on a television show that they watch, but they have a resume, a built-in resume. Yours is a very uh, complex. That's a very wide resume. You have theater and you have movies. So,
Right.
which is I'm not going to say what do you prefer, but how different is one from the other, from theater to television to movies? Because you can distinguish that one right now.
Well, TV and film work, TV and film acting requires a lot more subtlety than stage acting. When
Mhm.
you're on stage, You have to project. You have to reach the person who's sitting in the back row. So things are a little larger. You have to play it a little larger than you do on film and TV, because in those mediums, the people you're trying to reach are just a couple of feet away from you, as close as 2 or 3 feet, a yard away from their TV screen. So things are more subtle. The facial expressions, what you'd say with your eyes, the body language is not as large, not as big. Again, much more subtle than what you can get away with on stage, where you have to reach an audience that's yards away from you. Now, in terms of which one, I enjoy them. I enjoy stage and film and TV for different reasons. I love the process of stage work, where you work with a group of people over a period of weeks before the show goes up. You have an opportunity to get to know them. It's like being on a sports team. The kind of chemistry that you build and the camaraderie. I love that process. And there's also nothing like a live audience and a live performance.
Yes,
because you don't know what no performance of a play is the same from night to night. The actors might have different moods going into the performance that evening. The audience reaction to a line might be different from one night to the other. Somebody might forget a line, or they might miss the entrance. So you really have to be capable of improvising, reacting and responding in the moment. You have to be, it's a very different experience in that respect. In terms of TV and film, the process can be a little more tedious as you do take after take after take of a particular scene. But there is nothing that is better than knowing, for example, in the episode of Chicago Fire that I was on, that 7 million people are seeing that performance.
That's true. That's true.
If I'm performing on stage, there's a few hundred people at the most who are going to see me on that evening. And then in a film, when you go to a movie theater and you look up and there you are on a 20-foot, 30-foot screen, well, that's quite a feeling. So they each have their different rewards and they're fulfilling in different ways. But what it requires, and I'm firmly convinced that your best film and TV actors have come up through stage and have learned the basic craft of acting on the stage. I think that those actors tend to have skills that are more well-rounded, and their memories are better tested, because on stage you don't get a chance for a second take. There's no room for error. There's no room for flubbing. And if somebody flubs, the other person has to cover and make it seem as though nothing has gone awry. So there's really a slightly different, it's all acting. And what's required of you, there's certain fundamental skills you have to have as an actor. You have to be able to portray a character that might be 180 degrees different than you, whose life experiences might be different than yours. And you have to do so and portray that character in a very convincing way. Another interesting difference between, for example, being in a commercial, being on a TV show, and being in stage, if I have longer period of time to convince you that I am that person on stage than I have in a commercial that only runs 15, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or in a TV show. In a TV show, you need to be that character pretty quickly, or the audience is going to lose interest and they'll flip to another channel. So there's some interesting differences and that exist in these various media.
Now, do you prefer one to the other?
I love them all. I hope that I'm able to continue. I hope that I get more TV work, additional film work, but I certainly wouldn't want to abandon the stage.
Now, I guess I've been asking a lot of people who I've been interviewing, how is it working on television during this COVID times that you have? How was the entire process went through?
Well, yes. For example, for this episode of Chicago Fire, Funny the Things That Remind Us, episode 904, fourth episode of the 9th season of Chicago Fire. It was very different being on set than when I had been pre-pandemic sets, whether they're film or TV. So I was in Chicago for 11 days. 3 days I was on set. A fourth day I had to go in for wardrobe and makeup and hair. Although since I'm bald, they didn't have to spend too much time on the hair. But I was there for 11 days, and I had to get COVID tested 8 of those days. So there were some days the only responsibility I had was to drive from the hotel to the studio and get tested for COVID. On the set, COVID protocols were strictly observed. You didn't take off your mask until it was time to utter your lines. And then as soon as the take was done, you put your mask back on. And even craft services, how the food was catered and served was different. Typically, up until the times of the pandemic, you just had a big buffet and everybody would get their plates and dig in and get what they wanted. But with under COVID protocols, you had to, you went to the ledge in the kitchen, you pointed out what you wanted to eat, they put it in a plastic container, gave you your utensils, then you sat down at a desk, kind of like the desk that you would have as an elementary school student. And and they're all spaced 6 feet apart from any other desk. And then when you were done, they gave you cleaning materials to clean up your desk and throw away your food. So it's very different being on set during the pandemic than at any other time. I mean, Eric Beasley, the director of this episode, had one of those helmet-like visors and shields. And I know and you work with what you have, you learn to adjust and to adapt, but I'm sure he's looking forward to the time where he no longer has to wear that kind of headgear.
I bet. And I guess between actors and directors all covered up, it's restricting at the same time, you kind of like hearing mumbling, okay, can you say that again, kind of thing. So I know those challenges are up there. Now, let me go to your episode. Henry Stidwell. How did you come up? I know you auditioned for the role. How long did that process came from the time that you were told you're gonna audition for the thing? I'm sure audition was done virtual.
I had to submit. I had to videotape my audition and send it in.
Okay.
And what was very fascinating about this was that I have agent in Chicago, I have an agent in Atlanta, I have one in Ohio that covers me in Ohio and Western PA, and I have 2 agents that represent me in Detroit.
Okay.
I had signed up with the agencies in Detroit about a decade ago. One of them, I had never been sent out on an audition. And that's the one that contacted me about Chicago Fire. And so in the email, she says to me, oh, they want to see you in audition for this role in an upcoming episode of Chicago Fire. So I read the character description and it said a guy in his 70s who's frail. And so I shot her an email back. I said, well, I don't look like I'm 70 and nobody's ever described me as frail. And she said, I know, but they want to see you in it. So I said, sure, I'll do it. So I have a friend of mine who's my videographer. So anytime I have to submit an audition via video, a self-submission, a self-tape, I have him, he comes over to my house, we shoot the scene, then we take a look at the takes and figure out which one we want to submit. That scene, the scenes that I had to submit were so well written in and of themselves that I immediately connected with them. And one of the scenes I had to submit was the final scene in that particular episode.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the take, I almost teared up.
Yes.
And that's just seeing my performance without any of the bells and whistles, without really a scene partner. But for some reason, I was just able to emotionally connect to that role. And you know, my father in his last 6 months to a year of his life had a little, suffered perhaps a bit of dementia.
Right.
And his mental acuity began to wane. But I only saw that for a very relatively brief period of time. But I imagine that in the back in my subconscious, I probably took some things from him and from remembering him in that condition, however brief it was. But anyway, back to the audition process. Another interesting thing was that originally the role was written as a day player. 1 scene, 2 scenes, it could be shot in a day.
Right.
If that had been the case, they would not have been able to book me for the gig, for the simple reason that right now the Chicago franchise, those Chicago TV series, do only book Chicago actors for day player roles.
That's
so it was
true.
only after they expanded the role and its significance in the episode that I was then able to be cast, because I live outside of Chicago. I live in Shaker Heights, Ohio, just outside of Cleveland. Right. So it was also ironic that an agent that I've not heard from in 10 years, that's never sent me out an audition, this is the one that contacts me for the best booking that I've had so far, at least in terms of TV and film in my career. And it's also ironic that initially it was a role that I would not have been eligible for, would not have been booked for, because it was a day player before they expanded the role and made it a guest starring appearance.
So it perfectly worked out for you. It was meant for you. I would say it was meant for you.
Thank you.
It was meant for you.
A little divine predestination in it, no question. All the cards fell in place, and that's more than serendipity, I think.
So let me tell us about the experience working with the chief, Bolton, Amon.
One of the best scene partners I've ever had in any project I've been involved in.
I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but let us remind the people, he is a theater, a product of the theater too, of the theater's world.
And Amon Walker is, he's a phenomenal person as well. He was so generous, so gracious, so supportive. I mean, in between takes, he would say, man, you are doing a great job. And at one point I said to him, I said, well, I've only got 50 words in the entire episode. He said, oh, but you're saying it with your eyes and with your face. That's how you're making the character work. That's how you're conveying what he's feeling. And he says, and you have a good face for TV. He said, I've been around a lot of faces. You've got a good face for TV. So he was so supportive. And there's one thing that I would like to share, that it was not in the script, but I think it turned out to be one of the nicest moments of the episode. After we had finished one take of the final episode, when he and I are talking at night at the home that I return to from time to time because of my dementia, I got up from as we were breaking from the take, he said, you know, when you stand up at the end of the scene from the stairs, before you hand me that cap, perhaps you could look back at the house, kind of longingly, knowing it might be, you might not return again. And I thought, man, that's a good idea. So I went back into the holding area. In this case, it was one of the vans that they used, because this was an outdoor scene. It was kind of cold outside.
Right.
And when I come back, I say to him, I said, you know, I'm going to look at the house just as you suggested, but I'm going to do it after I've given you the hat and we've walked to the gate and I'm about ready to walk out of the yard, then I'll look back. And as it turned out, that worked so well, because it allowed that special moment when I handed him the hat, and then separately, not muddled, another beautiful moment when I turn and look back at the house and he does as well. So that's an example of the kind of collaboration you can have with a veteran actor who's in tune with the scene, and just knows how to deliver a first-class performance. So I think it's clear that we had great chemistry on set, during the scene, and so, you know, I would love to work with him again, because it was just such a joy.
Would be nice to have another kind of like a follow-up episode on that, because he did give your wife his card, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
I'm throwing out there. I like to
I like
speculate.
that. Make sure to tell Dick Wolf and the producers that you'd like to see me back for another episode.
let's tell Dick about it.
And you know, I always felt, since the character was a former police lieutenant, he could be on Chicago PD, and because of his dementia, he could be on Chicago Med. So I see endless opportunities and possibilities with this role.
Now, how do you call this? And I'm sure when the fans hear that of your experience with Amon, they will love you to death, because to them, it's we rarely, and this is what I was mentioning to one of the folks that Lawrence, who also was a guest on Chicago, who's also from Cleveland, who was on Chicago PD, and he goes like, it's the experience with these actors that are on television that gives you guys opportunity to shine. Because usually when you take a moment, like what you said, you don't have that much time or screen time or moment, and you got to make the most of it. And it's nice to hear that the actors themselves who are mainstays, who are regular on the series, give you that opportunity. Is that so with other projects? You as a veteran actor, you work that, or is it like, I'm not trying to kind of like, excuse my French, but kiss ass the guys from Chicago Fire or PD or whoever, but because that's the common denomination that I hear from people that I work, that I've spoken to, who on the One Chicago franchise. It seems like the actors, the mainstays, have this kind of like relationship with their co-stars, not just their co-star on a regular basis, but give opportunities to actors like you to shine. It doesn't work to any other projects that you have been experience-wise?
Amy, that's a great question. And one of the advantages of being a guest star on a show is that you're in multiple scenes. Mm-hmm. So you get to develop rapport and relationship with your fellow actors who are in scenes with you. You know, Eamon and I not only talk between takes, but we had a chance to share a ride back from the set to our trailers. And I found out about his family, and I told him about mine, and we learned a little bit more about each other. So that's something that's unique to being a guest star as opposed to a day player. A day player, you might have some conversation with the other actors, but right. You can't get to know them as well, and you can't develop the chemistry to the extent that you can when you're working with them over a more protracted, attenuated period of time. Now, I will say this, my experience with extremely well-known actors has been very good. I've been in scenes with Michael Imperioli of The Sopranos, a veteran actor. He was so kind, engaged me in conversation before we went on set for about a half an hour. Matthew McConaughey, who I work with on White Boy Rick, both mm-hmm. at the table read and then in the actual scene. Very approachable. Cicely Tyson, who was in a scene with me in White Boy Rick, after our scene was shot, we sat on the side and chatted for 30 minutes, you know, with that legendary actress, rest in paradise. So, you know, I've had nothing but great experiences with these well-known talents, some of them Oscar winners and Oscar nominees, Emmy Award-winning performers. And so mine has been a very positive experience. There's really nobody I can think of that I've acted with who's well known and renowned that I've had any negative experience with. But the difference is, once again, between being a day player and being a guest star, or being in a movie in which you're in several scenes and you're on set for weeks, at days and weeks and maybe months at a time, is that you get to develop a chemistry with your fellow performers that you just don't have the time to develop, at least to that level, if you're only on set for a day or a few hours.
Okay, I also wanted to ask is like, I guess this is my question for like asking for your advice. You have a very successful law career, a politician, and you did a jump from a very, let's just say, a stable income going to the entertainment business. What do you suggest? And like what you said, in your 50s, what advice will you give to those, let's say, late bloomers in the entertainment business? To pursue a dream or something that you really wanted to do after having a very successful career.
Well, let me say, I'm somewhat fortunate because, I'm still able to practice law. I still have a consulting practice. And I receive a pension every month because I had like 34 years of credit in the public employees retirement system in Ohio. So that certainly gave me some flexibility and some security to pursue acting vigorously. So I would advise people, don't quit your day job, or make sure you have a stable source of income if you want to make this jump. But most importantly, don't give up on your dreams. If you have, and let me say this, I'm not saying aspire to be an actor if you really don't have the talent. No more than I would tell somebody who wanted to be a professional basketball player to pursue that if they couldn't dribble a ball or shoot it. So
That's
you
right.
do need to have a certain level of skill. I would also suggest that you hone your skills by acting in stage productions in your community. I would then urge you to network. Matter of fact, if you want to be successful in any field of endeavor, my advice is to network hard and then work even harder. Because I learned a lot from talking to people who were further up the acting ladder than was I. It was a result of a conversation I had with one actor that I went to Detroit and secured representation in Detroit. So I was always trying to find out as much as I could from other people who had more experience and more success than I did, because people are always willing to offer advice and counsel if you're willing to take the time. They don't mind if you pick their brain. And that's exactly what I've done. So I'd give that advice to anybody who in their 40s or 50s or even 60s decides that they want to pursue acting. Have the skills, do your work, learn the craft via stage, pick the brains of those who are further along in their careers than you are, and then follow up. Do those things that they suggest. But I've always taken heart in the fact when I saw that Eli Wallach, of blessed memory, performed until he was in his 90s. Christopher Plummer, who I just found out today passed yesterday, has been one of my inspirations. He got his first Oscar when he was in his 80s. So if you stay in shape, and that's another important thing, stay in good physical condition. If you aren't in good shape, you can't make it for the long haul, and you certainly can't spring an acting career, launch into an acting career, catapult to an acting career when you're in your 60s and 70s if you're in poor health. So that would be the general advice. But the most important thing is, if you have the requisite talent and you're willing to put in the work, don't give up on the dream. Why not? We're living longer and longer. There are actors who are performing well into their 70s, 80s, and even 90s. So it's never too late to start if you're willing, if you're diligent, if you're industrious, if you're willing to put in the work.
Very well put, Mr. Peter Lawson Jones. I mean, couldn't have. I mean, I'm probably gonna have to add, do not burn your bridges in show business. I'll have to add that, because they said it's a very
Absolutely.
entertainment industry is very small. Everybody knows everyone, and I usually tell people that you gotta pick your battles when it comes to the entertainment business. And I salute you, sir. It was a very awesome performance. Yes, you got me in my Kleenex moment, and
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Okay, so I will leave you a couple of seconds. Say hello to your fans, because I know you have like a lot of messages going on. I just saw your post, and we will be posting this. I'll give you a moment to say thank you to your fans, or say hello. And I know you have an upcoming movie coming up right now, so talk to them about it. Black Messiah.
Sure. Well, first, in terms of upcoming projects, I did a scene with Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah, and I haven't seen it, so I hope my work wasn't left on the editing room floor. So
I will let you know, because we will watch it.
On that. And I'm also in a movie called Heartland, which is in a very touching scene. It's a movie about a Iraq War veteran who's suffering from PTSD, and he and other veterans head out west and support some Native American protests, land protests. And I play a Vietnam War vet who recognizes in my interaction with one of the lead characters that they're exhibiting PTSD syndrome, and I do what I can to put him at ease. It's a beautiful little scene. The movie's called Heartland. It's supposed to be released sometime. And otherwise, I'm continuing to audition. There is a film that I'm supposed to shoot in Western PA. I don't know the name of it, but the people who produced Heartland reached out to my Atlanta agent and then my Cleveland agent to track me down, because they have a role for me in the movie. And that's where you want to arrive at the position where people have worked with you, and you made a very important point. Don't burn your bridges. Be the kind of person that they enjoy having on set.
That's true.
Because that will lead to additional opportunities. If they see you can do the work and that you're easy to get along with and aren't high maintenance, aren't a diva, then they'll look for opportunities to employ you in the future. But I want to thank you, Amy, for this opportunity. This is a great interview that you've conducted. I want to thank my family, my wife, Lisa, who stuck with me as I made the transition from world of politics to acting. I want to thank my 3 kids, Ryan, Leah, and Evan, who are wonderful kids. They haven't given me any gray hairs. I have this gray beard. I got that all on my own. And they're an inspiration. And I like, it makes me feel so good when I do things that they are proud of. And I want to thank Olga Denisenko out of Productions Plus, the talent group out of Detroit, Michigan. And they also have offices elsewhere around the country, for her representation and helping me book Chicago Fire. And I want to thank Matt Eric Beasley, the director, extraordinary director, very supportive, always had great suggestions, and it makes you feel good about yourself and about your performance. Of course, Amon Walker, and also Kelly Taylor, I believe, who was in a couple of the scenes with me, and the crew. They just extraordinary, very talented crew, and it was a fun environment. It was a great environment in which to perform, supportive and professional, but still a pleasurable milieu in which to perform. And I hope I do have some new fans who saw that episode of Chicago Fire. And there's no better franchise than Chicago Med, Fire, and PD. And the great Dick Wolf. It was my dream, even before I started acting again. I always wanted to be on the classic, the original Law and Order.
Thank you.
And so unfortunately, that run of that particular show ended after, I think it was 17 years. It was a lengthy run, maybe longer. So I didn't get on that Dick Wolf production, but I feel I've made it. Matter of fact, somebody said to me earlier, you've been on a Dick Wolf production. It doesn't get any better than that on TV.
That's true.
And I look forward to the future. I'm excited about it. And, to all the people who appreciated my performance in Chicago Fire as Henry Sidwell, also known as 24198. I want to thank you for watching and for all your encouragement, and thank all my friends who've reached out and commended me over the last couple of weeks.
Well, let's remind everyone that you are on Instagram. You better keep up with your Twitter. We followed you on Twitter. And then, of course,
and on Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook.
I think it's either Peter Lawson Jones or Peter Jones on Instagram. It's PeterJonz, unusual spelling on Twitter. But otherwise, it's the regular Peter Lawson, Lawson Jones. So I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, we did follow you. We told you you were good. You were awesome, Mr. Jones. And I wish you all the luck. And I am looking forward to your new projects. And we will be watching Black Messiah coming up soon.
And hopefully I'm still in it.
You will be? All right.
But no matter what, it's a great film. And it's a film worth seeing. And it tells about an important moment in American history, an important time of American history. Is worth seeing. So.
And I think it's one of those movies that needs to be told. That is rarely especially now.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. We will be talking soon.
I look forward to it, Amy. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.